Greetings, this is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. So I got this question on Instagram and I thought it was something that was worth sharing. Basically, this person says, "Peace and love, Travis. I wanted to know your thoughts on starseeds." That's kind of general, so I didn't want to just assume that we were talking about the same thing. So I asked this person to expand, care to expand more on that. And thankfully they did, because it's easier to answer a question when the questioner knows what they're asking or what they're looking for. So this person says, "Are there people from other star systems who incarnated on Earth?" I ask about its validity because this is a phenomenon that almost exclusively to white hippie spirituality. I don't see this mentioned at all among the many groups, from Ifa to Chaos Magicians, etc. All right, and this is my response. As with everything, all truths are but half-truths. That's what the Kabbalion says, and that's what stands as self-evident across my experience. So, the half-truth, the negative side of it, it's absolute, fantasy, right? There's no space aliens coming down to impregnate women and, star seeds being born on Earth. Like, the way that it's described is fantasy. Like, people want it to be like a movie. People want it to be fantastical and, I'm a Pleiadian and I'm a this and a that. That version of it is Hollywood and nonsensical, right? So on that half, the half truth of it is not. But there is a truth to it, right? Before following or chasing any kind of wild belief, instead of going forward, I go backward. I go back to the beginning, right? The very first written document that's complete, the very first spiritual system that's complete, are the same thing, and it's called the Rig Veda, the oldest text on the planet, and it was a spiritual text. And all of these spiritual texts from that time period clearly dictated the universe and how it works, the different levels, how things are done, what the ultimate reality is, how to get there. All the stuff's been figured out. So I like to refer back to those texts because that's what all spiritual systems across the world are founded upon. And what it has to say about that is there are indeed life forms on higher densities of reality. That doesn't necessarily mean other planets, but that means there's higher densities, right? One way to think of it is like a radio station, right? You've got your radio, and it's a simple device. It can only tune into one station at a time. So you got to change that dial. You go to the hip-hop station, you listen to the music, cool. But if you feel like listening to some country music, you turn the dial and you go to the country station. So it's kind of stacked up like that. The more attached consciousness is to matter, it finds itself in this particular radio station, our Earth physical experience. Now, even this physical Earth experience has different levels, right? The more and more that you come into the true realization that matter is not solid and it's also not you, the more that you really come into that realization, the further you get from being attached to it. So you naturally start to, quote unquote, vibrate higher. But anyways, there are higher planes where ascended masters and people who have gone through the work to realize that they are not the flesh are able to exist beyond the body, right? And these groups of individuals, these civilizations, there's many names for them. But anyways, just like we've got this whole shindig going on planet Earth, there's whole civilizations all the way up and all the way down as far as radio stations go. So most people are too confused and too attached to this material plane so that when they die, they come right back. Others go through the work of inner self-realization, understanding what ultimate reality is, what the soul actually is. And when the body is finished, they don't come back to get another body. They continue on a higher plane. And they continue their education, continue their karma. They continue doing whatever it is that they're doing. And the more fine that they get, the more that they release matter, the more that they release attachment, they get closer and closer back to source. All right, this is what's written in the earliest texts on the planet, and every other spiritual text has imitated that. But this space alien shit, that's Hollywood for people who don't have a Hollywood for people who feel like they don't have a purpose, for people who don't fit in, for people who have to steal history and create meaning found one. That's what all this Pleiadian shit is. But yeah, like I said, all truths are half truths. That's what I have found in my research, and I'm extremely confident in the validity of that. I encourage you to do your own research and check that out. Like I said, the Rig Veda is the oldest complete text on the planet. If you find something older than that, by all means look into it. But yeah, I like to research before making any kind of judgment or assumption. That's actually a rare quality because most people, they hear something and they instantly believe it. I try to stay away from those people unless I'm teaching them something. But yeah, do your research and see what you come up with. All right, so that's what I guess that's my take from my research as far as dealing with Pleiadians and starseeds and all that stuff, And I know that we get attached to identity titles, and maybe some people got offended by that because they are attached to an identity title like Starseed or Pleiadian or whatever. But as always, ask yourself, why are you offended when your title is challenged? The title isn't real, right? You got that title from someone else, and that title comes with a whole backstory that you don't know anything about. No matter what title we claim, labels and titles, they're illusion, right? And if you find yourself getting upset over an illusion, then that's grounds for some inner work, Like just imagine, you think that there's any name or any title that you could attack me with? Like, you think you could call me something or disagree with something and I get mad and upset? No, that's not very mature or very stable at all. It's not mentally stable or emotionally stable. So don't get offended, but research, right? Research and see where all this stuff came from. See where these terms originated from: Starseed and Pleiadian race and Galactic Federation. See where all this stuff originated from, right? Look beyond the person that you heard it from, beyond that automated robot voice reading some long ass paragraph from the Archangel Michael and the Galactic Federation. It's entertaining, but ask, where the hell did this come from? Who came up with this? Who's writing that text? How did they get it? And that's not to say that higher entities don't communicate with us. They do all the time. And it takes an incredibly finely tuned and refined set of inner senses to perceive those messages. It's not impossible at all, right? Like I said, everyone has the potential to do it. But if the receiver is unclear, the message will also be unclear. You got to ask, like, why do so many people get into spirituality and then suddenly they believe they're the reincarnated Christ and they're here to save the world? That's an example of the receiver being cloudy and unrefined. There is a universal message of love, for sure, absolutely. But if you haven't taken care of your inner structure, then you're going to misconstrue that message. You're going to misconstrue it, and your unhealed issues are going to get in the way. Your ego is going to get in the way. Your attachments are going to get in the way. And, this is basically every cult leader, spiritual leader who went down and went crazy, etc., etc. All that stuff is due to an unstable ego, unstable emotional body, unstable mental body. This is why balance is so important. You can't go wrong doing inner work, shadow work, healing yourself. You can't go wrong with that, regardless of what people say as far as what's cool and what's not cool. And, do what there should be an inner voice leading you. You know what I'm saying? An inner voice that's beyond what you like and what you don't like. There should be a quiet, still voice that slightly nudges you, especially if you've made it this far. You should know the sound and the pattern of that voice by now. Follow that. Don't follow what feels good to the senses, because that is so easily manipulated. So easily manipulated. I mean, there's whole books that teach you how to do just that, how to manipulate that 5 sense material body voice. But there's an even more subtle voice. That's the voice of the spirit, the voice of the soul. And it takes stillness to hear that voice. It takes stillness. Most people can't afford to be still. Most people lack the inner resources to be still and to concentrate and to focus. So when that subtle voice speaks, the five sense ego mind quickly takes over and misrepresents the message. And you'll get a message that says, I am a child of the Most High, but I'm also a child of the earth. And the ego will misconstrue that message and say, hey, we're from the Pleiadian star system and we've got a message for humanity, right? You see how easily that can be misinterpreted? Okay, so yeah, that's enough. I appreciate you guys. And research why you believe what you believe. Dig into yourself. Think about it. Just ask the questions. Why do I believe this thing? What's the cause of my belief? And how do I interpret that belief? Ask these questions. All right. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you guys. Peace.